Well, hey, today we are going to talk through the introduction of the book of Proverbs, and I'm so excited to have you here today, Jenny. She's our resident historian. So before we get into the nitty-gritty today, though, ladies, the book of Proverbs, we could be tempted to kind of pass this off as just a book full of some great sayings that we buy on a plaque in Hobby Lobby.
Yeah.
But the book is really has a lot of depth to it, and we're going to discover that today about what God's wisdom really is and how we should apply it to our lives. And I want to just read briefly from Proverbs chapter 1, right from the beginning. It explains what the book of Proverbs is about. Here's what it is. Their purpose is to teach people wisdom and discipline, to help them understand the insights of the wise. Their purpose is to teach people to live disciplined and successful lives, to help them to do what is right, just, and fair. Now, I don't know about you, Jenny, but I would like to live a successful life.
Yeah, absolutely. What's the other choice?
I know, exactly.
Right?
So let's pay attention to this today, and let's get into this. Jenny, I want you to answer two questions for us. And the first question is, how does the book of Proverbs fit into the Bible?
Yeah, so it's part of the wisdom literature, which includes Job and Ecclesiastes. And that sounds really formal and everything, but it comes down to where the rubber meets the road.
Okay.
And if all of Scripture is God's law of love, then this is how does that look in day-to-day life when we apply the law of love.
Ooh, that's good. I like that, the law of love. Okay, so the wisdom literature, what it talks about is that it was kind of like wisdom passed down through generations, like fathers passing on wise sayings to their kids.
Exactly. Yeah, so a lot of it comes from oral tradition.
Okay.
So that's where people share things verbally.
Yes.
They didn't have the ability to read and write. And so you have to have all these little tricks and devices to help you memorize and help remember.
Okay.
And so we see a lot of that happen in Proverbs as ways for the student or the son to remember what the parent is teaching them or the teacher's teaching the student.
Great. So you just mentioned that because I think this is interesting too, because when you read the book of Proverbs as a whole, you notice like the first 9 chapters seem a little different than kind of the middle and then the end.
Yeah.
So give us kind of a brief description of how the first part of the book, how it's set up.
Yeah, so the first part, chapters 1 through 9, is it reads a lot like a father giving his son advice.
Okay.
Here's how you be successful in life.
Okay.
And so, and then the very end has the mother giving advice to her son before he gets ready to rule. He's going to become a king.
That's cool. And I actually really like that. That's cool to discover that it starts with a father to a son and ends with a mother to her son.
Yeah.
And I think also it's interesting to see that chapters 10 through 29 are kind of like, when you read that, as you see, ladies, as we read that, because we have a Bible reading plan that goes along with the series, that 10 through 29 are kind of like, it kind of jumps all over the place. It's like wise sayings on a myriad of topics.
Yeah, and it feels a little scattered, I think. So if you feel overwhelmed, take a deep breath, because a lot of this is designed to be what you would acquire over a huge amount of time in a relationship with your parent or a teacher.
Right. And
or
so,
mentor.
yeah, exactly. And I think that's what we need to remember about the book of Proverbs. It's a book of God's wisdom that's telling us how we should live. And if we wanted to water it down real briefly, it's like thumbs up, follow God's way.
Yeah.
Thumbs down, you're going to hit folly and problems in your life.
And ultimately death. I mean, really. It says that several times, which sounds scary, but we really only have one of two choices here.
Right. So. Yeah. So I think we need to remember that as we're reading through this book, that it's really kind of a roadmap for how this is God's wisdom telling us how to live. So if we don't listen to it, then we're going to run into trouble.
Yeah.
But if we do listen to it, then we're going to have some success.
Yeah.
Okay, so now the main writer, who wrote the book of Proverbs?
So everything's attributed to Solomon.
Okay.
Some historians and some theological scholars think that he didn't necessarily write everything per se, but it's all attributed to him because he is the master sage. He's the master wise man in all of Israel's history.
Okay.
So he kind of gets the credit for it.
Okay.
And some of that's just tradition and the way they taught stuff. And but yeah, so Solomon, he was the son of David and Bathsheba.
Okay. Yeah, so let's talk about Solomon specifically. So the son of David and Bathsheba. What else about Solomon?
I like that his name means peaceful.
Yes. Interesting.
Which is really kind of cool. And he was not the oldest son, so the fact that he became king is really phenomenal and exceptional. So there was a lot of infighting in the family, and I thought that was kind of sad in a way because David's known as this great king,
yes.
and he brought the kingdom into the golden age for Israel. But for all of that great leadership, he kind of couldn't rein in his own kids.
Right.
And
there was some family stuff going on.
Oh my gosh. So much crazy stuff. There was intrigue, there was murder, there was abuse, there was somebody trying to take over David's throne before he even died.
Right.
It was
yeah, so anyone out there
mess.
that might think their family is a mess, don't worry, even in Old Testament history, and even David, who is a man after God's own heart, had some struggles in raising his own kids.
Very human,
yeah,
I think.
Exactly.
And Solomon came from all of that.
Right.
And I just can connect well with that as another human. Like, oh man, everybody has their own troubles
exactly.
that they're coming from.
Right.
So.
I want to read from 1 Kings chapter 3 real quick, just so we can get a sense for who Solomon was and how his story begins here. Here it says, "The night the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream, and God said, 'What do you want? Ask, and I'm going to give it to you. Now, O Lord my God, you have made me king instead of my father David, but I am like a little child who doesn't know his way around. Give me an understanding heart so that I can govern your people well and know the difference between right and wrong. For who by himself is able to govern this great people of yours?' The Lord was pleased that Solomon had asked for wisdom. So God replied, 'Because you've asked for wisdom in governing my people with justice, and have not asked for a long life or wealth or the death of your enemies, I will give you what you asked for, and I will give you a wise and understanding heart, such as no one else has ever had or ever will have.'" Okay, so as we see about Solomon, so he comes to the throne. God puts him in charge. Like you said, he wasn't the oldest son. It wasn't really as far as how history of the Jewish people and how that worked. It wasn't supposed to be his position to take, but he gets it.
Yeah.
And his attitude to God was, "Listen, I know I'm a young punk and I don't know what I'm doing. I need you to help me and give me your wisdom to lead the people."
Yeah. And I love that story because God suggests other things. You know, the idea of he could have wealth, he could have a wife, he could have anything he wanted. God said, "Look, all of this is on the table. You can pick what you want." And he says, "I want wisdom." And so God's reward to that was, "I'm going to give you everything else too."
Right.
And
on
I
top
thought
of
that was
which
really
was pretty cool.
And just an example of God's extravagance.
Absolutely.
When he walks with
right.
us. So.
And here's the thing. I think we need to quickly just relate this to us. Like when we first come into relationship with God, right, we are humble before him. We are overwhelmed by his love, all that he's done for us. We read our Bibles, we're praying, we're in Christian fellowship, and we just are really wanting to connect and understand who God is. And that's where Solomon's heart started. Yeah. God, give me wisdom so I know how to lead your people and know how to honor you. But as we move along in Solomon's story, we begin to see something change. And so let's look at that. From 1 Kings 11, it says, "In Solomon's old age, they turned his heart to worship other gods instead of being completely faithful to the Lord his God, as his father David had been. In this way, Solomon did what was evil in the Lord's sight. Yeah. He refused to follow the Lord completely as his father David had done. The Lord was angry with Solomon, for his heart had turned away from the Lord, the God of Israel, who had appeared to him twice. He had warned Solomon specifically about worshiping other gods, but Solomon did not listen to the Lord's command." Now all of a sudden we're seeing, okay, something happened to Solomon, and he ended up deciding, I'm going to go my own way. I'm going to start going with my own opinion, my own desires, instead of listening to God's wisdom.
Yeah, which is tragic, because it even says that God appeared to him twice.
And he still was making the mistakes.
Yeah, and that's just it's very sad and tragic to me, because that's what is his downfall.
Right.
God starts taking away his kingdom. His kingdom winds up being divided.
Right. Yeah, so listen to these things. Like, he turned his heart away from God. He refused to follow the Lord completely. He went toward evil. He didn't listen. Now, listen, ladies, before we're like, oh boy, Solomon, boy, what a jerk, what a punk. Like, isn't that true of us? How many of us, we started by saying we come into relationship with God, we're gung-ho, we're connected, we're listening to God, we want to obey him and honor him. And then life starts to come back in and things start to capture our attention. And we start to feel temptations toward things of the world. And now all of a sudden we're not listening to God's wisdom either.
To me, it's kind of scary that can happen.
Yes.
But it's just this, we're in this world, we're not of it anymore.
Right.
But we're in this world.
Right.
And so there's that battle of what I want to do or what I should do, I'm not doing.
That's right.
And what I shouldn't be doing, I am doing.
Exactly. And that's the key then of what I want to come to here, ladies, because the key verse that starts in the book of Proverbs and what we're going to hinge our whole series on is from Proverbs 1:7. It says, "The fear of the Lord is the foundation of true knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and discipline. So there's something here about the fear of the Lord, Jenny. That's the key here of how we avoid becoming like Solomon.
Absolutely.
So what does it mean to fear the Lord?
Well, it doesn't mean cower in the corner, afraid.
Yes.
This isn't the fear that's the fight or flight response of, oh shoot, I better get away from this.
Yes.
This is dangerous. This is awe. This is just an encompassing knock you off your feet. This is amazing. And when we hear this and we get this fear of the Lord with God, it responds, it demands a response.
Right.
It's not run away. It's,
right.
Oh my gosh, I want to get to know you more.
Right.
I
You're
want to draw
amazing.
closer to you. You're my creator. You have the best intentions and the best plans for me.
Right.
Why wouldn't I want to get to know him more?
Exactly. Yeah, so that fear of the Lord, the way we're going to say it in this series, is really elevating God's opinion above our own.
Yeah.
That's what happened with Solomon. He started with God's wisdom. He sought God's wisdom. He lived his life according to that. Things went smashingly, thumbs up. But then over time, he decided, you know what? I kind of like these ladies over here. I kind of like worshiping these false gods because it's giving me power or whatever.
It's entertaining,
It's
maybe?
entertaining. And I'm not going to care about God's wisdom. Thumbs down, right?
Yeah.
And so for us as women, what we need to come to is understanding the fear of the Lord in our own lives, of remembering that God's opinion is what matters the most. That should be elevated in our life above anything else, our own thoughts, our own feelings, the things that we think are right or wrong. God should be the determiner of all of it, right,
Absolutely.
wrong, good, evil. And if we stay that way, then things will go well. And so that's what this whole series is going to be about. So over the next couple weeks, we are going to go through some key proverbs, some key passages to learn God's wisdom, apply it in our lives. And the temptation might be, ladies, that we're like, this is kind of easy stuff. I'll just breeze through this series. But really the punch of Proverbs is really in the application.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Knowledge is one thing. Wisdom is actually putting knowledge into practice. Living out God's wisdom is a challenge that we all need to take every day.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, ladies, over the next couple weeks, too, as we do this series, we also have a Bible reading plan. So you can read a proverb a day. We have a brief video that kind of intros each chapter. I challenge all of us to just pour in and learn about God's wisdom. Learn to fear the Lord, because that is the beginning of true knowledge and wisdom in the end anyways.
Amen.
Okay, well, good. Okay, so use the questions below. Have a conversation in your small group or with your mentor, and let's get started on this journey through Proverbs.